Welcome to Coffee, Contractors, and Concrete, a podcast series focusing on all aspects of the surface preparation industry and brought to you by the industry experts at Buy Manufacturers Direct. Joining the podcast today is Substrate Technology President, Industry Patriarch, Social Media Educator, and leading subject matter expert, Josh Jones. All right, Josh, the other surface prep application or process is chemical as opposed to mechanical or a topical type of application. I've heard of acid etching. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with the benefits and drawbacks of acid etching as a standalone process and also as compared to surface preparation or to the mechanical surface preparation?
Acid etching is one of those things that I've done a little bit of it. The majority of the prep I've done has been dry mechanical preparation. But I will say when it comes to acid etching, if it's done correctly, independent testing has shown that the adhesion is actually just as good as mechanical prep, assuming the area is clean. When it comes to acid etching, there are a couple of things that can definitely be done incorrectly, which can accelerate the failure of a floor or contribute directly to the failure of a floor. First off, that I've learned about it is that muriatic acid or hydrochloric acid is something that really should no longer be used. The reason being is because the muriatic acid is very difficult to fully neutralize. It is possible to neutralize it, but when applying a acid that's so reactive and so harsh to an absorbent surface like concrete, it's hard to know how deep that muriatic acid has gone, and then also encourage or force whatever neutralizer is used, like ammonia as an example, whatever is being used to force it to wherever the deepest point that hydrochloric muriatic acid had reached to make sure it has neutralized it. So when it comes to any leftover active acid, muriatic acid, there is a potential for it to still be in the surface of the concrete and then, of course, be encapsulated and trapped in there when the coating is placed. The alternative to muriatic acid that I've heard about and have used is phosphoric acid. Phosphoric acid is something that will be more easily neutralized. I have used a synthetic acid before too that I believe is a phosphoric as well. It is neutralized with water. So that means it's a less reactive or less harsh acid that, for whatever design or chemistry differences there are, though it is still an acid, is not nearly as aggressive or dangerous from a safety standpoint to be handled. Muriatic acid will burn anything, burn skin, and of course start to attack metal. Where phosphoric is more specific, in my experience, to the concrete to do the job it's supposed to do. The limitations for either phosphoric or muriatic is that if the floor has paint on it, if the floor has any other kind of coating on it that would inhibit the connection or the ability of the chemical and the concrete to be in contact with one another, then the acid's going to be ineffective. The acid can only react with the concrete. So that means if I have paint on the floor, acid etching is limited. It will not be able to do the work I need it to do. The other limitation or drawback, if it can be called that, is in order to finish the process of acid etching, I need to power wash the surface of the concrete. Power washing inside someone's basement or even inside someone's garage is going to be difficult without, of course, extra protection and the damage of adjacent surfaces. So there is a limitation there as well. As far as the work that it does during the etching process, the floor is made more porous. That liquid chemical is going to absorb into the concrete, into the capillaries, the places where I spoke about where the concrete dust can be trapped. That chemical is going to flow into those capillaries, react, and loosen any surface latents that would otherwise be considered contaminants by the coating or anything that could be later on reactive and cause a problem at the bond line. So if I do the acid etching correctly and I am able to neutralize it and I am able to power wash it, when that floor is dry, it is going to be a great canvas for a coating to be applied to and achieve maximum adhesion as though it were shot blasted. So that's the limitations and the benefits of acid etching, but really it's more a matter of it's something that can't be used everywhere and of course can't be properly done everywhere.
So is it fair to state that chemical acid etching takes a higher level of expertise than, say, a mechanical process. And in turn, even at the expert level, probably doesn't generate as consistent of a result as a mechanical process.
I would say that when it comes to doing acid etching, it's something that the applicator, the contractor, should be fully informed about as far as its limitations and potential health hazards. Um, when it comes to, well, I guess I missed the second part of your question, though.
Is it, even if it's performed by an expert, is it fair to say that the results are not as consistent as a mechanical process?
I would say that again, because it's limited to what it can do. So will give you an example. If I have a patio that is a broom finished concrete, it's cured, it's been there for 6 months, and it's a broom finished concrete patio that has nothing on it. When it comes to acid etching versus mechanical preparation, acid etching done correctly will have that floor just as ready to accept a coating as diamond grinding and shot blasting, as an example. It will be just as prepared for that coating, to the point that if I was to do destructive testing, and I have, if I do destructive testing and I find that when I pull whatever I've placed over the top of this prepared surface over both methods of preparation, and I pull the coating to test adhesion and the concrete comes with the sample, then in that case, the failure is below the bond line. The concrete itself is actually failing. It's not the coating and it's not the preparation. I have bonded that coating better to the concrete than the concrete has tensile strength to hold itself together, in which case either prep method is appropriate. If that same patio has paint on it, then there's no point in trying to acid etch it, because the acid, of course, cannot etch through paint. I would have to do mechanical preparation. So it's not a matter of there being anything wrong with it. It's just there's a limitation to where it can be used and be effective, and in other places where there's no point in doing it because it won't have any effect.
You'd mentioned health concerns, I guess, breathing the fumes and being exposed to that for a long period of time. Are there any environmental concerns with the acid etching? Where does that chemical go? Even once neutralized, does it just go down a typical drain, or how's it disposed of?
The way I understand it, and I definitely am not an EPA expert, but when it comes to something that could be neutralized with water, as long as I've neutralized it, like phosphoric acid, if I've neutralized it, then it's harmless to whatever vegetation may be around. I don't know what I really think that's more of a question for the individual manufacturers of how it's affected by the water neutralizing it. But as I understand it, it is at that point considered inert. I don't know that I would say it's ready for being put into a drain of any kind. And certain municipalities may require reclaim of the runoff waste. It may be something that cannot be used and just allowed to run into a drain. However, if I'm in a municipality that allows me to wash my car in the driveway and it's become inert by being neutralized with water, then that waste is no more harmful than soapy water running off a car. That's probably the best way I could say, as it affects, let's say, the environment. As far as safety goes, anytime I'm working with chemical, I have to be concerned with eyes, mouth, skin, anywhere that I could be harmed by it, by an aggressive acid. There should be the discussion of personal protective equipment, PPE, that's going to protect me from any harm that may happen as I'm using these chemicals.
Fair enough. So let me ask you an unfair question. Again, as a subject matter expert and a patriarch in this industry, given your option or your choice, would you rather go in with a mechanical process or a chemical process?
If I'm inside, then without a doubt, I would want to go with a mechanical. If I'm outside and the system that I'm using is going to somehow work with the texture of, let's say, that patio that's not painted, and that texture, a driveway is a perfect example too. I just did a patio last summer where the etching was the more appropriate way. And the reason being is because the texture was going to provide slip resistance for the coating system or the decorative system that was being applied. So I wanted to preserve the texture of that concrete rather than flatten it with a grinder. I wanted to preserve the broom finish texture that was there for the sake of slip resistance and safety, and also the aesthetic effect with the stain. But if the majority of the work I'm doing is inside, which is going to be a different animal and probably going to be different levels of contamination, using water and power washers inside any space requires a lot of extra protection. So to answer your question, the majority of the time would be dry mechanical. I will say that dry mechanical can do pretty much, and obviously way more than acid etching. But the one thing about mechanical is it has no choice in the process to do some transformative damage to the surface of the concrete, where chemical is kind of a soft touch. It'll clean out the capillaries, but not really change the texture. A grinder, of course, it chops the surface of the concrete down. So I would say that, really experience is probably going to be the best guide for someone, or knowledge sharing to the extent that someone's able to find someone to give them information about a product and proper preparation will probably be the best way to decide what is the appropriate preparation method.
This concludes episode 6 in a series of podcasts focusing on the basic principles of concrete surface preparation. Make sure to join us for episode 7, where we're joined by OEM founder and president Rex Davidson. Rex will be guiding us through a series of podcasts reviewing the differences and mechanical details of both propane and battery-powered ride-on floor scrapers. For immediate access to hundreds of industry-related tutorials and product demonstration videos, we invite you to visit the By Manufacturers Direct YouTube channel. Simply visit the By Manufacturers Direct homepage and click Watch More Videos. New videos are added weekly, so don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon to be notified when we post a new video.